Chapter 6. Uh-oh. My eyes opened. I could see the sun behind the branch of the Christmas tree. I jumped up, folded my blanket inside my suitcase, hid it, and started running to the 6 or 7 blocks down to the mission. I turned the corner and said, "Phew!" There were still a couple people lined up waiting. I started walking along the line. The end of the was a lot farther away than I thought. The line turned all the way around 2 corners and then crossed over to the next street before I saw the last person. Shucks. I walked up to get behind him. He said, "Line's closed. These here folks are the last ones." He pointed to the man standing next to the woman who was carrying a baby. I said, "But, sir." He said, "But nothing. Line's closed. These here folks are the last ones." It was time to start lying. If I didn't get any food now, I'd have to steal something from someone's garbage. I wouldn't be able to eat until Mission opened for supper. I said, "Sir, Man raised his hand and said, "Look, kid, everybody's got a story. Everybody knows the rules. The line closes at 7 o'clock. How's it fair to these people who have been waiting since 5 o'clock that you can sleep until," and he looked at his wristwatch, "until 7:15? They come busting down here expecting to eat. You think you got some kind of special privilege just 'cause you're skinny and raggedy? Look at this line. There's lots of folks that look just like you, and you ain't the worst. Supper starts at 6 p.m. But you see how things is? If you plan on getting fed, you better stay in line. Better be in line at 4. Now get out of here before I get rough with you." "Shucks, being hungry for a whole day is about as bad as it can get," I said. But he reached in his pocket and pulled something out. It looked like a heavy black strap, slapped it across his hands. Uh-oh, here we go again. He said, "That's it. No more talk. You opened your mouth one too many times. You rotten kids today don't listen to no one. But man, I show you something that'll improve your hearing." He slapped the strap on his hand and started walking towards me. I was wrong when I said being hungry for a day was about as bad as it can get. Being hungry plus having the big knot in your head from a black leather strap would be even worse. I backed away, but only got 2 steps before I felt a giant warm hand wrap around my neck from behind. I looked up to see whose doggone hand had been doggone big, who put their hand around my neck. A very tall, square-shaped man in old blue overalls looked down at me and said, "Clarence, what took you so long?" I got ready to say, "My name's not Clarence, and please don't choke me, sir. I'll leave." But as soon as I opened my mouth, he gave my head a shake and said, "I told you to hurry back. Now where have you been?" He gave me a shove and said, "Get back in line with your mama." I looked up and down the line to see who was supposed to be my mama when a woman pointed her finger at her feet and said, "Clarence, get over here right now." There were 2 little kids hanging on to her skirt. I walked over to where she was, and she gave me a good hard smack on the head. Shucks! For someone who was just pretending to be my mama, she sure did slap me a good one. I said, "Ow!" The big square man who grabbed my neck looked at the man with the strap and said, "Boy had to go to the crapper. I told him not to waste time. But like you said, these kids today, they don't listen to nobody." The strap man looked at the size of the man who called me Clarence and walked back to the end of the line. When the overall man came back, I said, "Thank you, sir. I really tried to get," but he popped me in the back of the head and said, "Next time, don't be gone so long." The 2 little kids busted out laughing and said, "Na na 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 na, Clarence got a licking, Clarence got a licking." I told them, "Shut up. Don't call me." And they both pretended to pretend Papa and pretend Mama smacked my head. She looked at the people direct behind me and said, "Mercy, when they get to be this age." The people were too happy about me taking cuts and weren't too happy about me taking cuts in line. But then they looked at how big my parent pretend daddy was, and they saw how hard him and my mama were going to hit me upside the head. They decided they wouldn't say anything. I was grateful to these people, but I wish they quit popping me in the head. And it seems like with all these names in the world, they could have come up with something better than Clarence. I stood in line with my pretend family for a long, long time. Everybody was very quiet about standing in line, even pretend brother and sister and all the other kids. When we finally got around to the last corner, we could see the door and the folks going in seemed like a bubble busted, and people started laughing and talking. The main thing people were talking about was the great big sign that was hanging over the building. It showed a gigantic picture of a family of four rich white people sitting in a car driving somewhere. You could tell it was a family because they all looked exactly alike, and the only difference amongst them was their daddy had a big head and a hat, and the mama had the same head with a woman's hat, and the girl had two big yellow pigtails coming out from her ears. They all had big shiny teeth, big shiny eyes, and big shiny cheeks, big shiny smiles. Shucks, you need to squint your eyes to that shiny family drove anywhere near you. You could tell they were rich because the car looked like it had room for 8 or more people in it, because it had they had movie star clothes on too. The woman was wearing a coat with a hunk of fur around her neck, and the man was wearing a suit and a tie, and the kids looked like they were wearing $10 a piece jackets. Read about that car in fancy letters. It said, "There's no place like America today." My pretend daddy read it and said, Well, you got to give them credit. You wouldn't expect that they'd have the nerve to come down here and tell the truth. When we finally got into the building, there it was worth the wait. The first thing you noticed when you got inside was the one big place was how many people were in it and how quiet it was. The only sound you could hear was when someone scraped a spoon across the bottom of their bowl, or pulled a chair in, or put one back, or when people in the front of you dragged their feet on the floor, moving up to where there was a spoonful spooning out food. After we picked up our spoons and bowls, a lady dug a big mess of oatmeal out of a giant pot and swooped it down in our bowls. She smiled and said, "I hope you enjoy." Me and my pretend family all said, "Thank you. Thank you, ma'am." Then man then a man put 2 pieces of bread and a apple and a big glass of milk on your tray and said, "Please read the signs to your children. Thank you." We all said, "Thank you, sir." Then we walked past some signs someone had stuck on the wall. One said, "Please do not smoke." Another said, "Please eat as quickly and quietly as possible." Another one said, "Please be considerate and patient. Clean up after yourself. Your neighbors will be eating after you." The last one said, "We are terribly sorry, but we have no work available." My pretend daddy read the signs to my pretend brother and sister, and we all sat on a long table of strangers on both sides of us. The oatmeal was delicious. I poured some of my milk onto it so it wouldn't be so lumpy, and I mixed it all together. My pretend mother opened the pocketbook and took out a little brown envelope. She reached inside of it and sprinkled something on my pretend brother and pretend sister's oatmeal and said to them, "I know that's not as much as you normally get, but I wanted to ask you if you mind sharing some with Clarence." They pouted and gave me a couple dirty looks. My pretend mother said, "Good," and emptied the rest of the packet envelope over my oatmeal. Brown sugar. Shucks. I didn't even mind them calling me Clarence anymore. Thank you, Mama, ma'am. She and my pretend daddy laughed, and they said, "It took you long enough to catch on, Clarence." He acted like he was going to smack me again, but he didn't. After we finished all our food, we put our bowls up, and I thanked my pretend family again and asked them, "Are you going to be coming back for supper?" My pretend mom said, "No, dear. We only come here mornings. But you make sure you get here in plenty early, you hear?" I said, "Yes, Mama. I mean, ma'am." I watched them walk away. My pretend brother looked back at me and stuck out his tongue and reached up and took my pretend mother's hand. I couldn't really blame him. I don't think I'd be happy about some sharing my brown sugar with my folks with any strange kids either.